Jacquees, welcome to Get Shit Done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I manifested Jacquees. I told you this because I learned about human design probably, God, when was that? 2018. 2018. And I just went on this rabbit hole with my soul friend because it's like that's when like tarot and astrology was really popping off. But then
Mhm.
I feel like this just went to another level of helping you understand like how you're supposed to operate in the world, especially around my work at the time. So I literally was like, I need someone in human design on the podcast. I put that on the universe, and literally a couple weeks later, I saw your name pop up in one of these WhatsApp group chats, and I was like, yes. And it's a black woman, like double whammy. Love this. Because I do feel like in the human design space, like most spaces, like it's not as super diverse. So here we
Yeah,
are. I'm
I
very
agree.
excited to have your voice and to kick this off. But I would first like people to know who you are, and also what led you to human design. I think you have a very unique background that I think most people wouldn't assume you would be here now.
No, no. So happy to start there. And for the people who are familiar with human design, I'm a 4/6 splenic projector. And we can get into what those different numbers mean. But I found human design very coincidentally through a podcast. So it's interesting that we're talking about human design on this podcast. There's a podcast called the Expanded Podcast, and there was a woman named Jenna Zoe on that podcast, and she was talking about human design, and she was using these terms like projector and generator, and you're also a projector, and so projectors love to like understand how people work, and we love archetypes and psychology, and so like many people who discover human design, I was like, what is this? Any type of quiz, I would love to do, so I did it.
I love a
And
quiz. Ooh, I love a quiz.
it's like the kids who grew up with Cosmopolitan magazine
Yeah, like BuzzFeed quizzes, even though they're so corny, but I'm like,
every
let
time.
me see what my house design, this fake quizzed house design is gonna be.
100%. So read that and fell down the rabbit hole. And it really has been a huge turning point in my life because I started my career as an attorney. I grew up in a very working class environment, like family. And when I was growing up, there were really only five professions that I really knew of. You could become a doctor. I didn't want to do that. I'm not called to healthcare, and like blood and stuff freaks me out. A teacher, I never felt that way. A government employee, like an engineer, and a lawyer. And so when I was growing up, I love reading, I love writing, and being a lawyer was the first thing that really stuck. And becoming a lawyer is a very well-defined path. It's like you go to college, you take the LSAT, and you go to law school. It's like A, B, C, D. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a very known, like well-trodden path. So I committed to that path early in high school. I went straight to college. I went to college. I went straight to law school. I went to Harvard for law school, and I was like, I'm going to be a corporate baddie. I'm going to become a CEO. I'm
Corporate
like,
baddies, we love it. We love
oh my
it.
God, the recovering corporate baddies.
Yes, there's many. There's many right
So
now.
many, so many. So I started off as a corporate attorney. I specialize in M&A or mergers and acquisitions. So when companies are buying and selling one another in New York City, and I was living that lifestyle. I was working on Wall Street. I was working on some really important matters, working at a firm called Skadden, which is like number one in the world or like top in the
Huge.
world for M&A. Yeah.
Yes.
So that was just like a blessing in itself. But I've always felt entrepreneurial and I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I never had an idea for a specific thing, but this call to like start a business or do my own thing has always been inside of me. So at first, when I was leaving the law firm, I thought I would go into startups. So I worked in a startup called the Players Tribune. It's a sports media startup that was founded by Derek Jeter. Did that for 2 years and eventually co-founded my own startup called Duos, DUOS. And it's a digital health startup that's raised over $160 million to date to help older adults and caregivers. I'm a caregiver for both of my parents. The idea of this type of company deeply resonated. It was something I needed in my own personal life, and I loved it. I was working with the most fantastic people, with a leader who like took a real interest in me and developed me and groomed me. But it was while I was at Duos that I stumbled and found human design while my mom was very sick. My mom has cancer, and at the time, she had been in and out of the hospital. I had to move like overnight from New York to St. Louis to be with her. And during this period where I was pretty much at my lowest, like emotionally, physically, just caring for her, I'm the only child of a single parent. So a lot of it rests on my shoulders. Human design was a light in the tunnel because I could learn about me. And the more you learn, there's like an infinite amount of information you can know about human
Oh my
design.
God, so much.
It's so much. And so for me, it just became this thing where I can learn about me, I can learn about others. And I just started getting more and more into it while she was sick. It became like a passion project. Eventually, I got certified to do readings, which is what most people do when they want to start working with other people to do human design. And I did that honestly while I was working full time. I thought it would be like a side hustle, but once I started it, I realized this is my true calling because there aren't enough Black and brown women, honestly, who know about human design, who are working in the human design space. And I had this moment where it's like, if not you, then who? And
Yes.
it's like you have to be the change you want to see it in this climate, especially. It's like where can you have the most impact and like what's going to light your heart on fire? And I
Hmm.
finally had my heart lit on fire because
Yeah.
before that, I was just good at making money. I was just
Yeah.
good at my job.
Oh, you
Most
better. Come on. Drop them receipts, girl. I was just good at making money. I love to hear it.
because projectors are really good. We're like, if you want us to do A, B, and C and that equals success, we're going to
We're
do
gonna
it.
make it happen. That's our, which we'll get into, which is our,
Mhm.
that is our signature. So
Mhm.
I love this breakdown and thank you so much for sharing about your mom. And I recognize too a lot of people, especially projectors, but I feel like a lot of my friends who start hearing about or getting more into human design, they're at like a transition period or they're going through these challenges or whatever it is. I'm not saying that's when you need to do it, but I know for me, I stumbled upon it when I was recognizing, I'm like, oh, wait, I feel like I'm kind of how I used to do stuff's not working anymore. When I found this, I felt very seen. So before we dive into all the different types, what the heck is human design?
Yeah. I'll give it an analogy first, then I'll break it down. So, human design is really a tool. It's a tool you can use in your personal toolkit, very similar to meditation, to yoga. That's just helpful for yourself, but it's also helpful in helping you understand how you relate to the world and other people around you. To get more specific, it's an amalgamation of ancient practices. So, that's astrology, Western astrology specifically, the chakra system, the I Ching and the Kabbalah. The I Ching is an ancient Chinese practice, the Kabbalah is an ancient Judaism practice. And it's really like they've taken the best pieces of these different practices and pulled them into like one modality. It also references quantum physics. And the way it works is it's based on your birth time or your birthday, your birth time and location. And human design takes two data points. So not in any particular order, but it takes two data points, which is your actual birthday, birth time, location, and it looks at what was happening 3 months before to plot this very complicated chart. I'm sure most people, when they first learn of human design, they see the chart. It's called a body graph, and it looks very complicated.
I still look at it and I'm like, just tell
It's
me
a lot.
things. Just tell me things. I don't even need to be an expert at this.
Exactly. So the chart is very complicated, but the chart, if you know how to interpret the chart, it throws off a wealth of information. And that information has a lot of attributes, and those attributes kind of help you understand how you're defined. And like we all have lived experiences. So, different projectors show up differently, but effectively it shows you like your individual iOS system. It's like your blueprint, this is how you're designed, and like, nature versus nurture can play a part, but it gives you a starting point, which I found, especially for Black and brown women, especially, we just need a starting point or like a breadcrumb to help us figure out how are we showing up in the world and to just kind of bring voice to some of the lived experiences that we naturally observe.
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna get into the four types, but
Mhm.
before we get into that, because I think and why I love telling people, I'm like, I literally when I found out mine, I have a family group chat, and I was like, everyone send me dates, like where
Yeah.
you were born and time and everything,
Mhm.
and it actually helped me to understand a lot about the dynamics in my family. How
Mhm.
some of us, I'm like, oh, that's why you operate more like this. And one of my nephews, who is a projector like me, he operates a certain way where I'm like, oh, that makes more sense. Or, I have a niece and a nephew who are manifestors. And I'm like, no
Oh,
wonder why
wow.
you're a little more fat fire. Like it just made so much more sense. So what do you feel is the biggest shift, especially for entrepreneurs, once they like understand their type and start operating within it?
The biggest thing is alignment, right? And the way I like to think about it, and I use this in my own coaching practice, is human design helps you to stop upstream swimming. And what I mean by upstream swimming is so many of us, whether we're entrepreneurs or not, but especially entrepreneurs, it's like we all have a lane. And I'm not saying that it's fixed, I'm not saying that it's narrow, but it's like we all have a way in which we're naturally good at things and we're naturally meant to flow. The issue is a lot of times we're meant to flow a certain way, but we're seeing other people have success and we're trying to replicate their success, especially in this day and age with social media, like everyone's an entrepreneurial like guru. And so a lot of times, especially with projectors or like if you're a more rare type, I'm trying to operate like a generator because that's what I'm around. Or if I'm a manifester, I'm trying to operate like a generator because that's what I'm around. And so understanding your human design allows you to get super clear on what are your superpowers, what are you naturally really good at, and what does it look like when you're starting to operate out of alignment. And it gives vocabulary to that because I think we all feel it. But sometimes it's just in our head. We don't know how to voice it. But human design gives you clear markers of what I call downstream swimming looks like when you're flowing with the current, when it becomes easeful versus upstream swimming when everything just feels so much more difficult than it has to be.
This resonates so much for me because it goes back to when I found it. I felt like I was going upstream, and I'm just like, why does everything feel harder now? And now I want to turn to the different types because it's going to make way more sense for people. And we're going to start with generators, which is the majority of the population. But I felt, and we'll get to projectors later, but I felt I was going upstream as a projector because I was trying to be like generators, which is the majority of who I was around. And I was feeling like I was failing because I'm just like, why am I so tired? Or why am I like, whatever? So let's start with the different types and let's start with generator first because that's the
Mhm.
majority. But what would you say is like, what's the core way that this type is meant to operate?
Yes. So generators are 37% of the population. So
Mhm.
they are the most populous of all the various types in the world, in the globe. So, and that's the reason why a lot of folks who are not generators like projectors feel compelled to show up like them because that's the energy that we feel most dominantly just in society. Generators, at their core, they are creators and builders. And I use those terms as expansively as possible because even if you don't identify as like a creative, it's someone who could be creative in how they build a family, how they solve problems, how they decorate their homes. Generators are driven to kind of like to use the name of your podcast to get shit done. That is their goal. And if you think about it from the world building level, you want the most populous folks in many ways to be generators because that's how we advance. That's how we get art. That's how we kind of accelerate technologies. That's how we're building things. And so as an entrepreneur, a generator is the person who's going to be excited. They want to feel the passion. They're going to be the one they're actually the only types, them and manifesting generators, which we can talk about next, who have what's called sustainable energy. Because as a generator, the more you do activities that like make you feel passionate, that make you feel lit up, you get more energy. So if you think about their energy tank, the more they do things they like, they get more and more energy. Projectors, in comparison, have a fixed tank. Once we're done, we're done.
I'm out. I'm just like, bye.
No amount of money can change it.
No, no. You can't, there's like no amount of caffeine or anything can change it. I'm like, this is diminishing returns. I'm out.
But generators are in many ways built to do. And so what's called a pure generator, so not a manifesting generator, they are actually compelled to turn into experts and authorities. So generators often want to be really, really good at like a handful of things. If they want to become a painter, they want to paint all day and be the best painter they can be. And they want to use their energy in pursuit of what they really love. Where generators, especially entrepreneurs, get into trouble is that that same kind of like the things you like gives you more energy, the inverse is also true. So as generators start doing activities they don't like, which in business can be either a long list or a short list, their energy actually starts to go down. It will increase. So it's actually almost like
Mm,
proportionate to like how they spend their energy equals how much energy they have. So as an entrepreneur and a generator, it's like getting super clear on what pieces of this business do you love and spending your time there. And then the pieces that you don't love, being kind of like clear-eyed about it and trying to either eliminate, delegate, or mitigate those tasks as best as you can, because it frees up your energy in your field to focus on the things you do love, which you will just get continuous, not continuous, but like sustainable energy from. What a lot
mm.
of entrepreneurs who are generators do, they're trying to do all the things because they have all this energy. So rather than spending like 80% of their time doing the things they love, they end up spending 10% of their time doing the things they love and 90% of the time doing things that either they feel like they have to do or they should do or someone else has like kind of asked
It's
them
like
to do.
they're split
Hmm.
across, and I see this with a lot of entrepreneurs
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing I recommend to all generators, but especially entrepreneurs, is to kind of make three columns on a piece of paper and think about the activities that you've done over the course of the week or the month and like make a percentage and think about, okay, what percent of my time am I doing things that actually light me up? What percent of time am I doing things that feel like a no, that feel draining or constricting? And then what percent of my time am I doing things that feel just okay? Because that just okay bucket is insidious. And most people are like, oh, it's just okay, so it's fine. But for generators, that just okay is really a no. And that can
Yeah.
seep your energy either incrementally or in a much more aggressive way. But a lot of generators who feel low energy, it's that just okay bucket has like 50%, 60% of their time.
Facts. Okay. So we have pure generators, and then we have another group of generators,
Mhm.
manifesting generators, which is my mama and my brother.
Oh, wow.
So, um, what about this type? What are the key things about this type?
Yep. So they're 33% of the population. So if you take pure generators and manifesting generators together, because at their core, manifesting generators are generators, that's 70% of the population. So that's why so many of us are feeling this generator energy and feeling compelled to show up as generators because that's roughly 70% of the people we're around. Manifesting generators are a hybrid. They're the only hybrid type in the human design system. And at their core, they are a generator. So all the things I just said are true about generators. However, they have this like layering of sorts of manifestor, which we can also talk about next to draw the connection. And the manifesting generator is they're the only type that's really set up to not only initiate ideas, and not to say we don't have agency to initiate ideas, but like in terms of their wheelhouse, they're the only type that's set up to really initiate ideas, but also have the energy to execute on those ideas. And because of that, manifesting generators have a really quick process. And that's for better or for worse. So they can go, like I'm sure if I don't know if what your brother does, but like entrepreneurs who are manifesting generators, they'll have an idea on Monday, and by Wednesday they have a prototype, they have a website, they have
That's my brother. That is
it's a
absolutely, and my
very quick.
brother's an entrepreneur. So yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Once they get excited about something, it's a very quick turnaround. And sometimes they go so quick they misstep. So that's a little bit of a challenge.
Oh my, just so you guys see this in practice, my brother literally just acquired a company. He said he was going to do it a month ago, acquired it. And then he goes to our group chat because my sister, who's a generator,
Mhm.
she's really good with the systems and processes. And my brother would be like, I did the thing, I executed. I'll figure out the other stuff later, which is like, you need this insurance, you need that.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's a good balance. So please continue so people understand what she's saying by this.
Send it. And because they will send it, it's also because manifesting generators have the biggest engines of all the types. They have a lot, often the most amount of energy of everyone. So having your mom and your brother as manifesting generators, when you were growing up, you might have felt like, wow, like mom and brother are just on a wholly, like a completely different energetic like frequency than me. And I feel like I'm moving slower than them. And it's just because they are designed to like have a lot more energy, which is for better or for worse because they can end up spreading themselves too thin. Like one of the
Mm.
other names for a manifesting generator is the chief multitasker, like the chief multitasker officer, which is their gift because they can handle so many things. They can have a lot of balls in the air, especially as an entrepreneur, but they can quickly find themselves spread too thin and like experience massive burnout. So that's a big call out for manifesting generator entrepreneurs is that there's a thin line between like holding a lot, but also holding too much at one time.
Yeah.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
then the second, one of the biggest differences between a manifesting generator and what's called a pure generator is that manifesting generators often have an unorthodox path, and that can show up in their career. So it's possible your brother might have started off as a chef, and then he was a photographer, and then he was an entrepreneur. It can also show up in hobbies where a manifesting generator is like deeply into skiing, and then all of a sudden they're into camping, and now they're doing the Ironman because for them, they care less about mastery and they're more like passion driven. But the way their passion is almost like pulsing. So like it's there and it could be there for a year, it could be there for 10 years or 1 month, and then it's not there. It's like they just wake up and they're off it. And the
Yeah.
problem with manifesting generators who are entrepreneurs is that that can happen to their businesses. And so I know a few manifesting generators who have built like beautiful businesses over like 10, 15 plus years and they're starting to feel less passionate about it and they feel stuck because they're like, how could I move away from this company or this idea that I felt so passionate about maybe last year? And it's just not lighting me up in the same time. So they often need license and the freedom to pivot. And that pivot can be in their business, it can be to a different business, but they're like kind of the king and queen or they of like pivots. And that's kind of like their secret sauce. But sometimes
Yeah.
it can cause a lot of anxiety, honestly, to pivot away from something that you were just so passionate about. But like
Yeah.
Jessica Alba, Martin Luther King, like these are also famous manifesting generators who started at one thing that they were really good at. And over the course of their life, kind of pivoted into other arenas.
Yeah, that was my brother. That's why he wanted to acquire this other part of the for his business because he was getting he was like itching to do something else. He was like, I need something, I just need something else. So I love this. And for those of you listening and you're like, what the heck is my type? You can literally Google if you have any recommendations of what are the ones that you think they should do so they can follow along as we're speaking.
Yeah, so you can Google human design results and it should come up. I have like a link on my website that you can look that
Amazing.
up. I can share that with you. You could maybe put in the show notes, but anyone can just Google human design results. And what you're looking for is like a body graph generator. You can look for human design body graph, but I realize that is a lot to try to Google. But
Yeah.
human design results, and you can find it. Jovian Archive
I've done
is
that one. Yeah,
yeah.
for
Jovian
sure.
Archive is like the human design kind of like keeper of knowledge of sorts.
Yeah.
And so if you want to kind of go to the source, you can go there and like look up their site and they have like a human design body graph generator.
Yeah, just so you all know, like, okay, which is my type? And then as she's speaking, you can be like, oh, okay, this is mine. Okay, so let's move into manifestors now.
Yes.
What are the key elements of manifestors?
Yes, manifestors are very rare. They're only like 8 to 9% of the population. And manifestors are very similar to projectors in the sense that they don't have sustainable energy in the same way a generator or a manifesting generator have energy. Manifestors kind of like highest and best use is in being innovative. They are forward thinkers. They're here to initiate. Like that's their key kind of role in society. And what I mean by initiate is they're thinking of like these forward-thinking ideas. But with a manifestor, especially a manifestor entrepreneur, it's a gift and a curse because you're thinking of all these ideas. You have like probably a running list and they see what needs to happen 3 and 5 years from now. But the issue for manifestors is that they always need a team because they are the high level thinkers. They're the seers, but they're infrequently the doers. And so for them, they need a strong team that can help them execute because they're going to be the ones working on strategy. Manifestors traditionally were like kings and queens and conquerors, and they would have the foresight to be like, I'm going to sail over there where I don't know the language and I don't know if the earth is flat, but I'm just going to go do it. And that's kind of the energy for manifestors. But today's in society, they're highly creative, very innovative, and highly strategic, but having a strong team is like necessary.
Yes, okay. That's my niece and my nephew, and one of my friends, Chase, definitely manifestors, and I can see it like they have the ideas, but like their follow through is not always the Where it's just like, okay, you need people behind. So that's good because I always tell my nephew, I'm like, you're going to be an entrepreneur, but getting him prepared to like, how do you find a team is going to be important. So then let's move to projectors, which both you and I are. And it's funny, being in Mexico City, which I know that's your home base as well. I have met more projectors in my life being here. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is, but let's talk about projectors. What are some key elements of this type?
Yep. So we're about 20% of the population, more or less, and we are the seers and the guides, the advisors. So we are the individuals who often can see, like we have the gift of sight. So if you think of generators and manifesting generators have the gift of like really doing and executing, projectors' gift lies in their ability to see strategically. We are often very strong executors just because we can see what needs to happen, but that's not our highest and best use. It's in using our sight. And I think the reason I too have met a lot of projectors in Mexico City, I think is because there are a lot of coaches and advisors in Mexico City, which often lends itself to the projector. Also, the projector is in many ways like the CEO 2.0 because we are really bringing forth a different way of leading companies and businesses from a much more empathetic, much more of a strategic framework as we kind of progress into like this new era that a lot of people have been talking about us moving into. Projectors, I mean, one of the things people say is that we need more rest, and that's because we don't have that sustainable energy like a generator. We have like a fixed tank of energy, and often if we can sit down and just have focused time, we can get done in 3 or 4 hours what it might take
Yes.
someone else a day or two to do. It's just having that focus. And that
Mm.
focus is because we can deeply focus on the other, whether it's the other person, the other group, or the other system. And we just intuitively know what needs to happen. But often for projectors, it's so natural to us that we don't realize that it's a gift. We're like, well, everyone should see that X, Y, and Z is the case. And it's like, no, no, no. And
Or
that's
I'll
why
be like, why did that take so long? Because
for
I have to
sure.
realize, I'm like, what I get done to your point in
Mhm.
4 hours is usually someone's week. And
100.
to your point around rest too, this is where when I didn't know what my type was. So I was trying to show up like a generator who has this immense amount of energy where I'm like, I don't need to keep up with generators because honestly, what I do in a few hours, I'm keeping up in a way with, that's not the best way to say it. And what resonated with me too is even around like the CEO 2.0, like I realized for me, I'm really good at strategy, but I'm also good at execution. But I realize about myself, I don't like having to be in the weeds. I'm like, I like to hunt and kill. I don't want to cook. I can cook and I'm
I
good
don't
at
want
it,
to.
but I'm not happy doing it. I'm like, if you keep me in the kitchen, I'm going to start getting antsy and upset. Let me go back and do my thing. So that really resonated.
That is the challenge for all high performing projectors is that I can hunt, but I don't want to cook. And the thing is, most projectors are great cookers. But just because you're great at it doesn't mean
Doesn't mean you
that
should do it.
human
Mhm.
design illuminates your sweet spot. It doesn't necessarily say you can't do the other things, but it's what's your highest and best use. And so I even talk to people who work a 9 to 5 or work as a W-2 employee. If you're a projector, it's like, can you get paid for your insights and your strategic abilities and less for the execution of it all? That's the key.
Yes, I love this. Okay. Now, last but certainly not least,
Mhm.
reflectors who are the most rare type.
Most rare. Yes. So they're 1%, maybe even a little less of the population. I've only met a handful that I knew were reflectors. Reflectors are the most rare of them all. They're really like the canary in the coal mine because they're here to reflect back how healthy a situation is. And so a reflector often kind of picks up the energies from who's around them, like from a person to person perspective, but also the environment. And their job is to really reflect out what is happening. So reflectors are actually some of the most wise individuals of all the types. Like projectors usually get that moniker because it's more of us, and I think we're more vocal about it. But reflectors are really like the most wise because they're really able to see what's happening at like the like kind of physical level that we see, the energetic level that we don't see, and they're able to bubble up these like deep sage insights. As an entrepreneur, though, it's very difficult sometimes for reflectors because they change a lot in how they feel. They're completely open, and that openness means that they can kind of morph. They're almost like a chameleon sometimes. But all the rhetoric we receive from generators really is like be consistent, be the same person. A reflector might wake up one day feeling like a generator, and then the next day they feel like a projector, and then the next day they feel like something totally different that we don't even know about. But when you're trying to build a business and all we hear is about consistency, consistency, their energy levels greatly fluctuate. Like how they view themselves in the world greatly fluctuates. And so for them, it can be like a little bit of a wild ride trying to build this business because every day really feels different. But that is how they are designed. For reflectors, especially entrepreneurs, their environment becomes critical. I mean, for all reflectors, especially because if you are in an unhealthy environment, it can make reflectors feel unhealthy, like at a deep, deep level. They can feel sad, they can kind of absorb the energies around them. So, for reflector entrepreneurs, it's trying to figure out what environment, whether that's the physical environment, and the people you need around you to make this dream come alive. Because if you're around a bunch of naysayers or you're in an unhealthy environment, it's going to be much more difficult to show up in the way you want to show up because you're really absorbing those energies that's around you.
I love this. I haven't met that many reflectors that I know of, right? Because not everyone knows their design. Okay, so
True.
we've gone over all the different sign or the not signs, this is not astrology, the different types.
Hmm.
Um, and so what I really loved, similar to astrology, it's like, yeah, you might be Leo, Sagittarius, whatever, but it's so much deeper than your type. So for example, before we started recording, I was telling her that I have a lot of friends who are projectors. That one of my friends, Lauren, she will be out in these streets. She's like, girl, let's go do this night. Let's go. And I'm like, I need one night where y'all need to leave. Everyone needs to leave me alone. But that is because I have a different profile than her and just a different chart in general. Like you mentioned earlier, you're splenic
Hmm.
and I forget what is it called? I'm a solar plexus or
Emotional.
I'm emotional solar plexus. So I make emotions or a lot of decisions very emotionally, and I'm actually supposed to ride the wave. I'm not supposed to be very
Mhm.
definitive in them. There's so many things. So now that people know what their type is, what are some other really key elements they need to consider now that they have their charts
Mhm.
that are really key to helping them understand more about who they are? Because just because you're a projector doesn't mean you're going to be like every other projector.
Right. So I think first is definitely energy type. Like energy type is like the starting point because the idea is once you're able to understand and start playing with your energy type, a lot of the rest of the human design pieces kind of naturally fall in line. So I would start there, and your energy type will also tell you your strategy, which is how you're meant to interact with the world. So, like the strategy for projectors is wait for the invitation, which as an entrepreneur can sometimes
Very
feel
annoying. I'm like, I don't wait for things. What are you talking about? I'm very impatient.
100%. 100%. So like by knowing your energy type, you will know your strategy, and then you will also know your signature, which we mentioned was like success. It's like how you like it's like the feeling or the energy we're kind of chasing. And each of the different types have different what's called signatures and not self themes. The not self
Hmm.
theme is like your check engine light. It's like the emotion that you experience when something's out of alignment. For projectors, that's bitterness. That's when we might come in hot with an insight. We have not been invited to give that insight. And all of a sudden we're bitter where we're like, oh, that's the last time I try to help that person. Like,
Yeah, because we see it. We
we
see it.
see, but we need the invitation. So human design is all about trying to reduce friction in your lived experience. And so
Mm.
energy type, strategy, and signature theme and your not self theme are all wrapped up in energy type. So that's exactly where I would start for sure.
Yeah.
The second place I would start is your authority. Your authority is how you make your best decision. So that's when you were talking about splenic. Like I'm splenic, which means I make decisions like in the moment. It's like an instantaneous knowing. It's intuitive. It's actually one of the hardest authorities to kind of like explain to people because it shows up very differently. It's the least visceral of them all. It's kind of hard to articulate. It's a bit abstract. And yours is emotional, which means you need time to make your best decisions. You got to like ride that wave and sleep on it, give yourself a night or two to feel like, does this feel like me? But when you're an entrepreneur, you need to know how to make your strongest decisions. We're
Mm.
always making educated guess decisions and we're doing our best job. But what if you knew I am designed to make decisions in the moment? I am designed to make decisions over time. Because especially as an entrepreneur, if you need time, but you're shaming yourself for needing, I don't know, a week or like 2 weeks, that just becomes part of your process. It takes some of that
Yes.
guilt and that shame off of you if you know, hey, I'm around people who make decisions immediately, but I need like a couple days. And you can tell that to your employees, you can tell that
Mm.
to your founders, your other like, co-collaborators that I show up like this. And it also gives you license to understand how others show up, especially in relationship dynamics. It can be very helpful.
Ooh, even when you said, I was like, even with lovers, because honey, I have people that I tend to attract a lot of people that are like, we need to work it out right now. I need you to know how passionate I am about this right now. And I'm like, I need you to get up out my face because I'm gonna say something that I don't mean because I'm very emotional right now and I'm supposed to take a moment. So
Yeah.
so what
Because
are the different how many energy types are there? So we mentioned splenic. If you are a love is blind, that is my guilty pleasure. There's the one guy, I think it was on Love is Blind London or something, who just kept saying, I have the splenic and I have to make things for my spleen. So that's what she means. Then there is emotional. So are there any others?
there are others. I believe there are seven off the top of my head. So 50% of the population, more or less, are emotional. And emotional doesn't always mean that the person is emotional. They often are in tune with their emotions, but it just means that they're riding an emotional wave. And so at any given point, what they say may not be the full articulation of how they feel. So 50% are emotional. And then you have splenic, which is like in the moment, but it's a very intuitive in the moment type of experience. You have sacral authority, which is generators as well, and that's like gut instincts. Sacral is someone there. You can only be a generator or a manifesting generator, but you feel yes or no in the moment, and it's usually a bodily response. So yes feels like expansion in the body, and that can feel like in your chest or your belly, or like butterflies or excitement. And you feel no in the body, which can feel like restriction or tightness in your throat or like in your chest or gut. You have ego authority, which is individuals that are like it's ego based and it's not in the colloquial sense. It's all around individuals who are motivated by what's good for them. It's almost like a healthy selfishness in a way. And people hear these terms and they kind of be like, ooh, I don't know if I like that. But it's like what's good for you and what you're personally motivated to do is the right decision in your life. There's also what's called G center, like self-projected authority, which is very similar, which is like if it feels like it's something that's good for my life direction, my path, it's good for me. These individuals also sometimes need sounding boards to make decisions, and that's because they kind of need to hear how they talk about it. With other people to understand how they feel about it. So it's not like I need a person to help me make a decision. I need to talk about it to someone else so I can almost hear myself and see how I feel about it. There's mental authority, which is very similar. It's like the sounding board authority where you need to like talk it out. And then there's also lunar, which is reflectors. And they are individuals because they're completely open. They need 28 days often, or like their own full lunar cycle to make a decision. So it's kind of like emotional, but like a little bit on steroids, where they kind of like need to live out a lot of emotions and kind of try on a lot of different faces to see how they feel about something. And it can be shorter, but
Mm.
they like kind of need more time to really kind of experience the full wave of their emotions and self to see if that's a good decision for them or not.
Got it. And then going back to authority, so we mentioned with projectors,
Mhm.
authority is like I forget which one it is. It's like when we're not in our authority or our signature, we're bitter, but when we are, we're success. So can we break that down for each
Oh,
of the
yeah,
different
yeah.
types?
Yep. So just to make sure so everyone can track us. So energy types, just so they have the different categories,
Hmm.
are generator, manifesting generator, projector, manifestor, and reflector. The authorities is like your natural decision making kind of compass. That's the emotional, splenic, sacral, mental, lunar, like kind of what we just went through. And what you're talking about is called your signature and your not self themes. And that does not, it directly correlates to your energy type. So for
Mm.
generators, their success theme is satisfaction. And satisfaction feels like like I just did a good job today. It's like I use my energy doing whatever makes my heart feel good. And it's like job well done, but it's like a satisfied type of, when you have a good workout and you feel the natural endorphins.
Yeah, you're like, yes. So the one she's breaking down right now, it's like when you know you're in alignment with your type, these are the things. And we're gonna go into when you know you're not in alignment, these things will come
Exactly.
up. So for generators, it's satisfaction. Okay.
Yep, and manifesting generators. So generators and manifesting generators is satisfaction. It's like job well done, like oh, like good workout.
Yep.
When you're not moving in alignment, it's frustration for both generators and manifesting generators. And frustration can feel like physical frustration, like tension in the body. It can feel like mental frustration, like, oh, I just feel like I'm in a rock and a hard place. It can feel like almost like energetic frustration where you just feel like your energy just isn't moving. It's not flowing. You don't feel like you're in flow. Because a lot of times when generators feel that satisfaction, it feels a little bit like magic. It feels a little bit like
Mm,
it feels a little bit like those synchronicities are flowing. You feel like you're in flow. And so the opposite of that is this frustration where you kind of feel stuck or you feel like you're moving through kind of like mud a little bit.
got it. What about manifestors?
Manifestors, they want to feel peace. Manifestors, the thing with them is that they don't want to be controlled. And the lack of control is often peace. So they are seeking peace. That's why manifestors love being alone because it's a peaceful time. And when they don't have peace, their not self theme is anger. And anger is can show up as like sadness or like a passivity, or it can show up as like rebellion or what we think of when we hear like anger, where you're like, I don't know, people trying to control me, or like why I don't have the like staff I need. It's kind of like an outward manifestation, but it doesn't always have to be.
Got it. What about projectors?
Projectors, our signature theme is success. Like we want to feel successful. We want to feel like we
Period.
check,
That's what I want to feel
we
all
want
the
to feel
time.
like we check that box off. I'm a Virgo and a projector. So for me, it's like,
Oh,
oh,
wow. Yeah.
check it off. Let me just check this list off. And another word that's I also so associate with success is impact. We want to feel
Yes.
like we've helped someone,
Mhm.
something, we were productive, but we have had an impactful day. And the opposite for us, like our not self theme is bitterness. And that's when we're like, oh, like it's almost like it's like the people who aren't petty become petty. It's
Oh
like,
my God. When I'm not in if when I my not self theme, when I feel bitter, I'm just like, ugh, ugh.
mhm. It's
Yeah.
the last time I'll help these people.
Yes.
You can tell when you're starting to say they, where it's like they'll learn, or like I will never like tell
It's like
them.
a us against them type thing. Me
Yeah.
against the world. That's how I feel. When I'm not
Mhm.
in my signature theme, I am a me against the world where I'm like, ain't nobody trying to fight you, Alex.
For sure. For sure. Mhm.
Okay, so then what about reflectors?
So reflectors, they're trying to find surprise because remember, they change every day and it's like a delightful surprise. You wake up and you're like, oh my God, like these little bits of magic. I feel like this today. And so they want to kind of feel like the surprise of life. And the opposite of that is disappointment. And disappointment often can feel like a little bit of constrictive because often people try to put reflectors into a box where it's like you have to be like this or you have to be like that. And sometimes it's easier to kind of like, play along to get along. And so you're like, fine, I'm gonna show up like everybody else, but that leads itself to disappointment where you're like, oh, like another day where I gotta kind of show up as like someone that's not me.
I love this. Okay, so these are the signature, and this is a lot of the stuff that if you just looked at your chart, it
Mhm.
showed you which is what.
Realistic.
Now, the next, there's so much more, like understanding your lines and all.
Mhm.
This is where I went down a rabbit hole, and I still have to go back and be like, oh, that's what that meant by it. So, what I want to do now is kind of use me as a case study of like why it's so important to understand the different, not even just what we just broke down, which you'll get publicly, but
Yeah.
having someone walk you through here are the different lines and
Mhm.
what this, like you mentioned, you're a 4-6, I'm a 6-2.
Yeah.
What do those mean? And there's so many. We won't get to all of it, but like just so you all can see and practice why you understanding this about yourself will not only help you understand more about you, but also how you're meant to operate as an entrepreneur. It helped, and I love that you used this word earlier. it helped me to really push away a lot of feelings of shame I had around certain things because it was like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. It really helped me. I felt seen. So let's maybe look at my chart and let's start with maybe like you're going to know your profile, which mine is 6'2". So as a projector, I'm a projector, but there's lots of projectors. What does this profile mean and why is it important for people to know that part of their profile?
It's really important. So your energy type, like projector or generator, really will indicate your key archetype. It's like almost like your role in society. The projector is the guide, the generator is the builder and creator. But to your point, there are so many of us. It's like, what are the differences? So your profile comes in and kind of demonstrates you have this kind of archetype. Your profile tells you how you win. It's like how you will navigate life. What you
How you'll
tend,
win. I love that. Okay.
that's how I explain it for
Yeah.
entrepreneurs because human design rhetoric would say like your profile talks about like this is the type of movie or like the way in which you'll navigate life, which it does. But I think in the entrepreneurial context specifically, your profile will demonstrate or tell you how you win specifically. And so each of the lines and each of the different profiles mean different something different. So you are a 6'2", which means your first number is a six. The first number is what you feel consciously. That's like the thing where someone will tell you and you're like, yeah, that's me for sure. The six is someone who's highly strategic. So as a projector and a 6'2", you're probably like the most strategic of them all. And how you run your business is probably highly strategic. And you're able to pull back and take like a bird's eye view of whatever you're working on. And that's because sixes live their life in thirds. The first 30 years or so, like from years 0 through 28 to 30, you're living life with ups and downs, ups and downs. It's like sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down, and like I'm just
Yep.
riding lessons from around 28 to 30. If those like who listen and follow astrology, it's your Saturn return through from like about age 30 until 50, which is like around your Chiron return. You become much more introspective. You pull back. This is when a lot of people start going to therapy. This is when they start like becoming much more introspective. And they're starting to look at those first 30 years to start seeing what are the lessons here? Who am I authentically? How do I want to show up? I might have been showing up as a generator because me too. But is that the right way for me? It's almost like years 0 through 30 or a quest for authenticity. And then from age 50 or so until like the end of your life, you become this like role model. You kind of fully emerge as I am someone who did the work to understand my early years, and now I can show up as Alex or Jacquees, who's like fully formed, and we are the best people or some of the best people to help the younger generations through their own journeys because we've done the work. And sixes is interesting because in entrepreneurship, sixes almost always feel like late bloomers because our life is really evolving over like an arc, but it's like we always feel this greatness. And it's like we're on the precipice,
Always.
always. And it's
I'm
like we're on
just
the
like, since I was a kid, I'm like, I'm supposed to be wealthy. I don't know about y'all.
God has told me.
Yes.
But a lot of people who have a six in their profile, they don't feel like they hit their stride until like their mid 40s.
It's so funny you mentioned this because I guess some people are like, oh my God, you're crushing it, you're that. But my internalness is like, I know how great I am and I'm going to be. I feel like I'm behind sometimes. Where
Always.
my mom and grandmother would be like, are you insane? Like my
Mhm.
grandmother has to tell me, she was like, you've lived more lives than most people my age. So I realize, at least for me, the way that manifests is when I'm beating up on myself about it, is that I don't feel like I've done enough because you're
Yeah.
so hyper aware of what it is that you're capable of.
Mhm.
But then it's like, that's not always the most constructive thing. So then when you know, okay, there's six, but then what does the two mean?
So the second number is kind of like your subconscious. And that can show up in a few ways. Some people, they feel a bit less close to this number or this energy. But often as you get older, it's something that kind of emerges and it feels like you. Very funnily enough, the second number is often what people see in you. And it's sometimes not the thing you see in yourself. And so the two is the natural. The two is the natural and the hermit. So to your point about needing a little time, the two is kind of like the person who's in their house. They're peeking out of the window, being like, who's outside? And the two is like they have all these gifts and talents that they don't often see because it's just so natural to them that they have to be what's called out. So it's like, say for instance, you're a great cook. And if I was like, Alex, what's some of your talents? She'd be like, oh, I love to write. Won't even mention the cooking because to you, it might just be so natural that it's not even something
Yeah.
to talk about. But
Yeah.
in order for you to kind of share these gifts, someone needs to come to you and be like, the last time I was at your house, you whipped up a meal in like 3 seconds flat. It was like Michelin star quality. Can you please cook for me? And you're like, of course. So the twos are these like natural like geniuses, but their work is to figure out what am I deeply natural at because often it's so ingrained that they don't appreciate it. And so in business, it's like asking people who you work with closely, like, what are some traits, talents, and gifts that you think I don't really see or I'm not fully maximizing? And if you're trying to start a business, it's often hidden in the two. But like, it's like if you wanted to be a coach. I meet so many coaches who are twos and they're already coaching people, but they don't see it as coaching. They're like, I'm just having a conversation. But it's like you're having a
Yeah.
transformative conversation.
This is so important because I feel I just had this when I was in New York this week. Like I get people that come up to me and they'll like say all these really wonderful things. And it's just like, oh, I didn't realize that that was a big deal. Like
Yeah.
I remember this one guy was like, you need a book, you need this, you need da da da. And I'm just like, that just seems like my everyday, like, is that a big deal? And for her, like, and I've had this before, so that really resonated. So for the folks listening in that are just like, okay, I want to understand more about my chart and break it down. What are the key things that they need? And I know we went through quite a few different things, but like for them to understand just how to work smarter as an entrepreneur and just how to be a better human for themselves, to just really enjoy life. Cause like it's not just about our businesses. Like,
Mhm.
what are the key things that you find are the most important for them to unpack in their chart that really takes them to the next level?
For sure. So, and like loosely, but the specific ones are energy type, which we've talked about, profile, because that talks about, like we said, how you win, but it also talks about if you want to grow your business, leaning into your profile is a way you can start pulling levers that you're not even aware of. Authority, because how you make decisions is going to be paramount to your like business and to your life in general. Beyond that, I will look at environment. So environment is something that doesn't, I think, get enough airtime in human design, but it
Yeah.
talks about what type of environment and energy you need to succeed just in general, that I would definitely look there. I would also look at what's called your personality sun. And your personality sun is if you run your human design body graph, there are two columns on the left and the right of the chart. On the right hand side, that's your conscious side. The very first number, it's usually expressed as like a number point something. Like mine is like 47.4. That number is your number one gift you're meant to use in this lifetime. hmm
Yeah, because there's so many numbers when you get your full reading. Yeah.
It's so many numbers, but that is the one you're meant to use in this lifetime. And often it's like the thing you are meant to kind of like understand for yourself. And once you're able to understand that, you're meant to share it with the other. So if you think about your business, it's like how can you take this one gift and think about how you can alchemize that gift in your business. Like mine is gate 47, which is the aha moment. So I always have these aha moments, usually for me, but now that I'm a coach, I can use these aha moments that I have about other people to help them have a transformation, or I can ask a question that helps them have their own. And that's a way I'm
Amazing.
able to use that in my business. So definitely your personality, son, is another one that I would look into.
Amazing. Okay. So I'm sure people are like, this is amazing. They're geeking out on their charts right now. They're doing the Googles. But if
Yes,
you're like me, I did that for a little bit and then I was just like, there's too many numbers. And
it's a
I
lot.
I
It's a lot.
really don't want to master this. Again, I'm not trying to be the expert in it. So I was
Mhm.
like, let me go and talk. And I actually do this often. I'll go and talk to multiple, like different people about it just to get a refresher. So for those that are like, I want to dive deeper, how can they work with you?
Yes, they can work with me in a few ways. The first is getting a human design reading because that's a 90-minute session where I break down the fundamentals of someone's chart. Because, like you said, it's very complicated and it's a session that's very discreet, and you get like it's almost like a teaser or a taste. If individuals want to go deeper, they can work with me one-on-one in an executive coaching container where I use human design and professional development leadership practices to really kind of like marry the two. So I work with like a lot of CEOs, a lot of entrepreneurs, and it's like I want to grow my business. Well, like let's talk about profile first, and then let's have a strategic tactical plan second that's kind of rooted in what we just talked about. And then third, I do like wellness retreats where we do like two in-depth human design workshops. And the way that's really beautiful is that you get the content of like a human design reading, but it's in the environment or the container of a group setting with other people. So you can start hearing like, oh, Alex does this, which is similar to me, and this other person does this other thing, which is very different from me, because sometimes we're able to fully understand how we show up by understanding how someone shows up differently. And it shows us our own kind of like beauty. Like you said, I didn't know that was even a gift. But by hearing those conversations in real time, it could be a very beautiful experience.
I love it. And finally, for those that are listening in, the reason we do this podcast is we want to revolutionize what business success is. And again, it has nothing to do with what one person does. It's how does it align with you? Is this your version of success and how you want to build your business? So, for the folks listening in, what would you say about human design and helping them to achieve that? What's one thing you would like to leave them with?
Human design provides a mirror of this is what alignment and flow can look like. And it's not prescriptive, but it gives you a starting point for living in alignment. And we both know that the more you are in personal alignment, like you said, irrespective of business, your business will flow because you are in alignment. The force, the other things, the other emotions that kind of come up with business naturally are not going to have the same level of heaviness because you're already moving in alignment, and that's how the universe meets you halfway, and that's how you get the ease of building a business.